You invested all your money in real estate, property, and all that, and then you need your fund like immediately. With real estate, can I get that?
It depends. There are some companies that offer that service such that you put your funds in an asset, in a real estate asset, and then they will help you sell and they would guarantee sales. Okay, they call them prop vest companies. Okay, so you put your funds in those companies and then they tell you that at a fixed period of time they will then sell the asset and then give you your return, and you then make your returns. However, there are also some other companies that will tell you that, look, if you buy property, you have to go and look for a buyer yourself. Okay, so whenever you're ready to buy, go look for your buyer, come back to us, we'll do your documentation. When the buyer comes, he pays you, and then that's it. Now, in those cases, it might be difficult to get a buyer.
Welcome to Be Inspired with Bamidele. This is a place to be educated, motivated, informed, and most importantly, to be inspired. My guest today is Bamidele Adewole. He's an experienced investment advisor, consultant, and personal finance coach with vast corporate experience in investment research and advisory. He also has experience in investment banking, financial strategy, financial analysis, stockbroking, investment relations, real estate advisory sales, and business valuation. He's the founder and lead coach of the online investment and financial literacy platform, the Money Strategy Hub, which he created with a vision to grow a community of highly skilled investors and financial experts across the globe. Bamidele is a fellow of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, an associate of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Nigeria, Chartered Institute for Taxation Nigeria, and Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment in the UK. He is also a member of the Security and Exchange Commission in Nigeria and an authority dealing clerk for Nigeria Stock Exchange. Welcome, Mr. Bamidele Adewole. I'm super happy to have you here. Let's get the conversation started. So I understand that you are into investment banking, real estate, and all that. How did you started doing all this?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really very glad to be here. Okay, so I started as a finance person. I've always been into finance. I studied economics in school at the University of Ibadan. And then I'm also a chartered accountant, and I have certifications in the finance, a lot of certifications in the finance space. So I've always been into finance. So when I started working, my very first job was in a stockbroking firm. I got that job as an analyst and I worked there. From there, I moved to another stockbroking firm. I also worked as an analyst there. And then from there, I moved to a bank and I got a job as an investment banker. So I did investment banking, financial advisory, and all of those things. And then from there, I moved over to a conglomerate in the real sector, and I worked as a financial analyst there. So I've always been into finance. I've always been into investment.
So what was the drive for you? Like you just remain in this profession for a very long time. So is this something that you've always aspired to do when you were much younger, or you just find your path there?
Well, I guess I would say I've always liked money. So anything that has to do with money would always attract me. But on a more serious note, I think my father was a major inspiration for me.
Oh.
Yes, my father actually did economics in school. He rose to the very, very top in his profession in that finance space. So I drew a lot of inspiration from him. But beyond that, I also just had a natural likeness for anything that has to do with finance, even right from a very young age, anything that has to do with budgeting, numbers, and all of those things. I always like to put numbers together and all of that. So I knew early, while I was in school, that I would end up being a finance person. So it was something that was deliberate.
Right. So when you finish your school then, and then had it been you didn't get a job in that space, what would you have done?
If I didn't get a job in that space, possibly I would have gone into some business. I would have looked for some hustle, because I've also always had it at the back of my mind to do something by the side
Right.
beyond just my career. Okay, so it was always in the plan, but obviously at that time I didn't have exposures to business. I didn't
Right.
understand how to run organizations and all of that. So I needed those jobs to sort of serve as a stepping stone, okay, to become the businessman that I am today.
Right.
Okay, so yeah,
So
that's it.
that's great. So let me ask you this question: what are the major challenge you face in this field? Being a finance person, real estate guy, you're a broker, you are in this space. You have so many qualifications to mention. So what are the challenges you face, and how do you overcome it?
The challenges I face, I believe, I think it has more to do with the fact that there's such a huge gap
Right.
in the knowledge space, right, around finance. A lot of people don't understand finance, unfortunately. Okay, so because of that, people, when I speak, sometimes they say, oh, you're being too technical, they don't understand, and all of those things. And so I have to then break it down to their level,
So
sort
you
of.
say, sorry to cut you. So you say a
Yes.
lot of people don't understand finance. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, a lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of financial. I don't want to use the word illiteracy because that will sound derogatory, but there's a gap. I think that's the best word to use in the finance space. Generally, people don't have a good understanding of how to manage their finances. For
Right.
instance, they don't understand even simple terminologies. Okay, in the finance space, like how to buy stocks, for instance, how to invest in real estate, how to invest in mutual funds. They don't understand these things. There's so much to learn, okay, amongst the people, in this space. So that in itself is a challenge for me because sometimes when I speak, okay, I don't carry everybody along, okay. So I then have to calm down and try and get them to understand what I'm saying.
So like a layman could understand wherever you are
Exactly,
trying to pass
exactly,
out. Oh,
exactly.
nice,
So they
nice.
say I'm a bit too technical. I should break it down, and all of those things. So yeah, I see that as a challenge, but I also see it as a blessing in the sense that it then gives me the opportunity to then provide services, which I do provide to them. Advisory services, for instance. I do coaching. I do speaking engagements. So that gap that I've seen within that space has provided opportunities for me.
Okay, let's now go more into details about this. So a lot of people feel that investing is just to buy real estate, or because of the stock market is so bad in Nigeria right now, and then real estate is the thing that a lot of people do. Should it be the only thing people invest in? So what is your own take on that?
No, I do not think it should be the only thing people invest in. I think people should have diversified portfolios of investments, okay? In fact, one of the things that I try to advise people is try as much as possible to diversify your investment options, okay? Don't rely on just one asset class. However, real estate obviously remains one of the best, if not the best, options out there currently, okay? But it's not the only thing. There are so many others. There's the stock market, as I mentioned earlier. You have bonds, government bonds and treasury bills, even though the rates are really very low currently. But for someone who is risk averse,
Right.
who doesn't want to take too much of a risk, okay, especially for the older people, right, then those safer asset classes might work for them, okay? But by and large, what I tell people is whatever you want to do, if you're not a professional or you don't have experience in investments, try and speak to a professional. Let them guide you. Let them sort of handhold you and tell you, invest in this, don't invest in this. Let them manage your portfolio for you because it's very easy to make mistakes in this.
So managing your portfolio, what is the minimum portfolio that you can manage?
Interestingly, you can start with anything.
So anything, can you be specific, please?
Anything as little as 5,000 naira. You can actually start your investment journey. I tell people a lot, start with what you have. Don't wait until you become a billionaire before you start investing. Okay? Start with even if you're regardless of your income level, whatever it is, even if it's 2,500 naira, 3,000 naira, just start investing something. There's a concept called the concept of compounding.
Right.
Which means that when you put money in an asset, right, and you earn in that asset earns interest, and the moment it starts to earn interest on a compounded basis, the growth becomes exponential. Okay, so if you know you have limited funds, you have to be very, very patient. Okay. Now, one thing I always tell people is don't try to get rich overnight. So don't try to look for, oh, you want to become a billionaire overnight. So you now go and start looking for high risk investments. Okay. Try to ensure that you balance your risk and your return. So the whole idea of you as an investor is to look for an asset that optimizes your risk versus your return. But to answer your question directly, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to be wealthy to start investing.
So you talk about you don't want to be rich overnight, high risk investments and all that. How about some companies, some investment company that like give some people maybe like 10%, 15% flat rate monthly? Do you count that as an high risk investment?
Yes, it is a high risk investment because one of the ways to determine high risk investments is you look at the returns. If the returns are significantly above average returns across the markets, then the chances are that that asset class is high risk. So what will I look at as a typical high risk investment? What are the examples? For instance, you gave an example of a company that promises 10% every month. Now, the truth of the matter is that inflation rate is just barely 14-15% per annum.
Right.
So if someone is giving you, or a company is giving you 10% per month, that's 120% per annum. That is extremely high. Okay. So what I usually tell people is you compare the returns that the company is promising versus inflation. Ideally, if it's about inflation rate or lower than inflation rate or just slightly higher than inflation rate, then there are chances that it's probably medium or low risk. But the moment it's significantly above inflation rate, there is a high chance that it's a high risk investment. Now, am I saying you shouldn't do high risk? No, I did not say you shouldn't do high risk. But what I've said is that before you do high risk, do your due diligence. Be sure of what you're doing. And also try and speak to an investment professional or speak to people who have also invested in that asset class. Get their opinions, okay? And then use those opinions to then make informed decisions.
And they understand the historical data of the company that you want to invest into.
Exactly.
That is another part
That's
of
absolutely
it
necessary.
that is really important. So I really okay, this is one of the questions that I would say that is something that I really want to venture into is the property aspect of it. A lot of people, finding ourselves in this part of the world that thing can happen, and that you invested all your money in real estate, property, and all that, and that you need your fund like immediately. With real estate, can I get that?
No, you can't. Or yes, I would say yes and no, right? So yes, in the sense that it depends. There are some companies that offer that service such that you put your funds in an asset, in a real estate asset, and then they will help you sell and they would guarantee sales. Okay. They call them prop vest companies. Okay. So you put your funds in those companies and then they tell you that at a fixed period of time, they will then sell the asset and then give you your return, and you then make your returns. However, there are also some other companies that will tell you that, look, if you buy property, you have to go and look for a buyer yourself. Okay. So whenever you're ready to buy, go look for your buyer, come back to us, we'll do your documentation. When the buyer comes, he pays you, and then that's it. Now, in those cases, it might be difficult to get a buyer. So I'll be very honest with you. Real estate has significant benefits, but one of the downsides of real estate is that liquidity sometimes could be an issue, because property is not something you could just put in the market and you expect to get it's a buyer overnight.
Right.
Sometimes it takes time. It could take days. It could take weeks. Sometimes it could even take months. So if you're going into real estate, one of the things you should know is that it's not something that you do when you need cash urgently. It's something that can give you good returns, okay, but not necessarily quick cash.
Wow, that explains it. So we're going to go on the short break. We'll be right back. Hey there, have you subscribed? Please remember to subscribe to this channel. Welcome back to Base Power with Bamidele. I still have my guest here, Mr. Bamidele Adewole. So, Mr. Bamidele, so another question I want to ask is, let's assume I have like 10 million naira that I don't have a need for right now. Okay, don't let me say 10 million naira. I said 1 million naira I don't have a need for in the next 2 years. So where do you think I should invest it? Should I invest it, put it in stock or bond or treasury bill, or maybe I should buy a small property, 300, 400,000. So what's your advice? I want to tap into your brain right now.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would send you a debit note for the free ad for the advice you said. But actually, that's an interesting question because it doesn't have any straightforward answer. That's the truth of the matter. Because when I'm faced with that question, the first thing I always tell people is it all depends on the person. Everybody has a different risk appetite.
Right.
So it depends on your risk profile, your risk appetite. Are you high risk? Are you medium risk? Are you low risk? So
as an individual,
yes,
like am I high risk taker, medium risk
medium
taker,
or low risk.
Okay.
So that will then determine how I would advise you invest. So a high risk person, the kind of portfolio that I would design for that high risk person is totally different from the portfolio that I would design for a low risk person, which is also slightly different, if not significantly different from a mid risk person. So it all depends on your risk appetite and also depends on your age. So those are the two major factors that we look into. We look at your age and we look at your risk appetite. So a younger person, the kind of investments that a younger person would go into may be slightly different from what an older person would go into. So a younger person would likely go into investments that have a longer period of for maturity, okay, and also lower risk. Sorry, higher risk for a younger person. But for an older person, they are looking to be, they're a bit more careful. They're not active anymore, so they can't afford to take certain risks, okay? So all of those things are things that I would consider before I then decide this is what I would advise.
Okay, what we're going to go into practical right now. So I have 10 million naira as we speak, and then let's say I'm 35 years of age. Okay, I'm a medium risk taker. So where will you advise me to invest such fund?
Okay, so now we've gone a bit specific, so I can then answer your question more directly. Okay, so in that situation, I would say perhaps you do a bit of course, real estate. I would keep talking about real estate because I feel real estate is the number one asset class currently in Nigeria. Okay, why is it the number one? Because it provides a fair balance between risk. Okay, real estate is generally considered low to medium risk, right? And it also gives good returns. Now, if you're investing in an upcoming area where the prospects are very high, you could get up to 50 to 100% return on investments within 1 year. That's how good real estate is. So I would advise that you do at least 50% of your portfolio in real estate. Okay. Now, in order to then maximize your portfolio, I would say perhaps you do 25% in higher risk investments like stocks. For instance, you could do 25% in stocks. Now, but if you're going to do stocks, I would guide you to ensure that you don't look for stocks that are volatile in nature, because the stock market as a whole is already high risk. So you want to manage your risk by picking stocks that are stable, that have a consistent history of dividend payments, because dividend payments is very, very, very key in the stock market. You don't want to buy a stock just for speculative reasons. You want to buy a stock that has very good fundamentals, and dividend payments over a period of time is one of the best fundamentals you can get in any stock. Okay, so that's the 25%. The other 25%, I would advise that you then, because you're a mid-risk person, I would advise you take that 25% and put it in some safe investments. For instance, like government securities, government bonds. They don't give you high returns, but at least they provide that safety, and they're also very liquid. So in case you need cash urgently, you need to quickly withdraw, you need to liquidate an investment for an urgent need, you can easily liquidate those government securities and then use that money for whatever you want to use it for.
Wow, that explains it. Thank you for that fantastic answer. That really makes sense, because I wasn't really looking at it in that way, like direction. The way you break it down: invest 50%, 25%, and the balance on the liquid where you can, because that is a lot of people concerned. Like, I can't put all my money in one basket, and then if I need it right now, I won't get it immediately. Exactly. So let's go back to the real estate. I know that is one of the things that you are really specialized in. I know you're a man of different experience and then field to say. Let's come to Lekekpe.
I presume.
Lackware and co. There's a lot of land, a lot of people selling. And some people concern is if I invest into this place, this major road is still the same place everybody will pass, and that the traffic is as in I can't even explain it. It's so much. Does it worth investing into? Knowing the fact that when everybody now moves to this area, the traffic and all that is going to be a major challenge for a lot of people.
One of the things I tell a lot of my prospects and also my students, because I run coaching sessions, one of the things I tell them is if you're going to invest in real estate, don't invest based on what you can see today. Invest based on what you can see in the future. So a big mistake would be to say you are investing based on the current situation. So you don't do that. What you then ask yourself is, what are the prospects for this area? If you want to do a real estate, you ask yourself, what are government plans, for instance? What are the plans of the private sector? Do you have a conglomerate like Dangote around there? Yes, you do. In Ibeju, like you have Dangote, and Dangote is doing so many big things around there. Okay. Now the government itself has significant plans for that area. One of the things that they're planning to do is that they intend to expand the route. In fact, they've already started it. The governor of Lagos State just recently flagged off the expansion and rehabilitation of the road, okay, from Abraham Adeson roundabout all the way to Ekpe. So that's going to be done. Now, beyond that, I also understand that they intend to do the Fourth Mainland Bridge, which will link Ekpe area to Ikorodu. So that will also help ease the traffic. And then there's going to be an airport. Okay, there's going to be an airport around that Ekpe axis. And then there's the seaport. And I also understand that the government it plans to have a rail service as well. That would also help complement the road network. So there are a lot of plans. Well, the truth of the matter is we don't really know how long these things are going to take or when they are going to commence. But the fact that those plans are in the pipeline means that there's hope that in the future things will be a lot better.
So does it mean that if anybody wants to invest on short time, it's not for short time, that you should look at the long time goal, right?
Yes, it always has to be long term. I tell people that investments are typically long term. Okay, so investments, if you want to
invest in property,
investments in property in most asset classes generally, because to really enjoy an investment, you have to be patient. You have to be patient. There are some investments that pay you returns within a shorter period of time, but by and large, my own recommendation is you look for an asset that takes time to generate income, because nothing happens overnight. Nothing good happens overnight. Everything good takes time to materialize.
Mr. Bamidele, thank you so much for being on this show. So your final word to people who want to invest this fund and they will feel that my fund is so small, I need to save it until I have a lot before I start my investments. Could you please advise them and then give them your final words?
Okay, my advice to people out there who are looking to invest is that you don't have to wait. I said it earlier, you don't have to wait until you become a millionaire or a billionaire. Start with whatever you have. If you have 5,000 naira, if you have 10,000 naira, whether you're an employee, whether you are unemployed, whether you're a business person, an entrepreneur, regardless of your status, regardless of even your age, even as a child, even before being an adult, you can actually start investing as a child. Or as a parent, you can invest on behalf of your children. Start early. The earlier you start, the better. And also try and speak to an investment professional. You don't know it all. Even some of us who are in this business, some of us who are investment advisors, we actually seek advice of other professionals as well. So nobody has the monopoly of knowledge. Speak to an investment professional. Read books. Read loads of books on investments and finance. Watch educative programs on TV. Go to Google. Google has so many resources. So many resources on finance, on investments, on economics, on business. Try and educate yourself as much as you can, because without education, you're likely to make mistakes. Education should be your number one objective before you go into investments. And finally, conduct due diligence. Check, check, check. Don't assume that you are making the right investment, because you just never can tell. Okay, so conduct due diligence, speak to an advisor, and you can't go wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, viewer, for watching. One thing I get from this is you can actually manage your portfolio alone, except if you are really expert in the field. get a consultant to help you manage your portfolio. It is very, very important. And whatever you want to invest in, do your due diligence. It is something that you can't run away from. I'll see you next time on Being Inspired with Bamidele. Thank you and bye for now.